I'll trust you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of LPA Live. We are LP Alliance, an Intercrux coalition, rebuilding the Libertarian Party and revolutionizing the liberty movement. My name is Amanda Griffiths. I'm joined by Kyle Davis, and we are also joined by former Libertarian presidential nominee, Jo Jorgensen. Jo, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much. Glad to be here.
What have you been up to since your presidential campaign, which was several years back by this point?
Well, the first 2 years, I visited as many state conventions as I could in order to give everybody an update on what happened. And I did that, by the way, without charging any fees. I basically looked at that as part of my job, as to report back to let everybody know how it went. So that took 2 years, and it was a lot of traveling. I mean, there was one weekend when, oh my gosh, it wasn't unusual for me to go to like 10 states in 1 month.
Oh, wow.
So
wow.
It was pretty busy.
So, like we mentioned, or like we were talking about yesterday, I've been in the party just short enough that I missed your vice presidential run. But followed Harry Brown. So what was it like? You know, we have seen the LP change quite a lot in the past 25 years. So what? How have things really changed as far as like the presidential run goes from 96 to 2020 for you, and from your perspective?
And you said the past 25 years. I mean, I first heard about the Libertarian Party in 1979 and attended my first Libertarian Party meeting shortly after that. So for me, it's been 45 years. But 96, I thought it was a great campaign. What was really nice is Harry and I were pretty much on the same page as far as we agreed philosophically with libertarianism. We agreed with how the campaign should be run, and we had a great time.
Cool. I know that as far as the way you guys speak about libertarianism, you and Spike are a little bit different. How was the 2020 campaign there, and working with Spike and working with the party in COVID, and so what was the whole 2020 experience like for you from your side?
Well, Harry and I ran a joint campaign, and that's really what I think we need to do. I think that the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate should be on the same ticket, and I think that they should have a shared message. My campaign manager, however, didn't agree with that, and so basically Spike ran his own campaign and booked his own and had a different message than mine. So that's not the first time it's been done, by the way. And some people prefer it that way. And so some campaigns in the past famously did that. But I just think it went a little better, being on the same ticket and spreading the same message.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So you think that there does need to be some kind of compatibility in terms of like flavors of libertarianism, so anarchism versus minarchism?
Well, and not even that, and not even to that degree, but just agreeing on the issues.
Gotcha.
I think it's better if at least the candidates aren't at odds with each other, and one person is saying one thing and the other person is saying something that completely contradicts the other person. But libertarians are very independently minded, let's say. So as I mentioned, there have been, there's messages coming up.
Yeah, these are all comments. These are our viewers, some of them, some of our regulars too, the usual suspects here. And truth is one of our favorite people. So truth just occasionally come up and troll.
I have no idea how that rumor got started that I supported BLM. Oh my gosh, yes, they are Marxists. Yes, they are communist. And even worse than that, the leaders of the movement were grifters. And they ended up with these multi-million-dollar mansions that had nothing to do with it. So here's what happened. And, candidates have their own kind of pet projects. And many libertarians have criminal justice as their main, as their main issue. That ain't me. So when I ran, my top 3 issues were bringing the troops home, healthcare, and the environment. And I had done a lot of research. I had my platform. It was on the website, ready to go with those 3 things. And then 4 days later, George Floyd gets killed. So here's the thing. I'm going out talking to reporters, and let me just mention, basically 2 reasons here. If I'm going out there and, he was news and there were riots, I'm not going to call them protests, I'm going to call them riots. There were riots all over the country, buildings being burned down, people getting hurt. And so that's what was in the news. And so that's what reporters asked me about. Now, I'm going to talk about what people are talking about. What I don't want to do is I don't want to tell the reporter, well, I don't care about the guy who got killed. Let me tell you about my healthcare plan. Because libertarians, you marched with them. I will pay anyone $5,000 who can show me where I marched with them.
Truth
in
has
some kind of parade.
Truth has a huge crush on Kyle and is trying to flirt with Kyle, and that's all.
Yeah.
So just don't pay any attention to Truth.
Yeah. And can I ask a question? You tell me the state that I marched with them in. You can't, because I didn't. So what they did though was they did have me. But let me back up too. So criminal justice is one of the major issues that my campaign manager was interested in, and it was one of the main issues that my deputy campaign manager was interested in. And that's what people were talking about. So yes, I did visit where George Floyd was shot. I didn't march, I just visited. And we thought maybe I was going to get on to Fox News. Neither of the other candidates were there. And so there was a Fox News candidate, camera there. And they were like, hey, we've actually got a presidential candidate here. Unfortunately, it didn't work. So, but towards the end of the campaign, I mean, it wasn't dying down because this did stay in the news pretty much the entire campaign. But finally I said, okay, I really think we need to move on. We need to talk about COVID a little more and all of that.
Yeah.
Let me back up too. I don't know if people still have this view of libertarians, and perhaps I'm a little sensitive because of when I joined the movement. But the reaction that I had gotten, well, I mean, I still get it, but not maybe as bad as I used to, is people would say, oh, well, libertarians are selfish. They just want to keep their money. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to help other people. And they want to be able to take drugs. It's your body, it's your money. That's selfish. And so, again, for me to go and say, well, I don't care about the guy who just got shot. Let me tell you about my money and how I can save money for healthcare. It just seemed rather callous. And, I think you should answer the questions. Now, of course, I tried to pivot when I could, but not to the point of sounding callous or like a selfish libertarian.
Right.
Sure.
You said that. Sorry, go on, Kyle.
So, as far as like the campaign goes, Chase Oliver attended one of the definitely legal and not at all violating any lockdown rule runs you had in Atlanta. And so that's kind of an interesting thing to me. How was campaign rallying when you couldn't legally campaign rally in so many places?
Well, we did everything outside, and that's also why we had the bus. And this was so frustrating. I just heard Gavin Newsom being He was just interviewed by, do you know who he was just interviewed by? I completely forgot who. But
I
within
can't
the
recall.
past week, Gavin Newsom was just interviewed by somebody, and they asked him, what are your regrets? And he said, well, we didn't know at the time about, that you don't need to wear masks outside or something. I mean, I'm horribly paraphrasing, okay? Because they famously went out and arrested somebody for surfing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and he said, well, unfortunately, we didn't know that at the time. And I thought, yeah, we did, because I was outside. And that's why we campaigned, because we were told that like 0.5% of the COVID cases were transmitted by, outside. And so that's why we did everything outside. And so, no, I shook hands with thousands of people, went to I don't know how many different states, and I never got COVID during the campaign. So
You did get bit by a bat, though. I do remember that. I thought that was a cool story. I thought that was a one. Scratched. I'm sorry. Scratched. You're right. It did turn into bit, like via the internet. It turned into bit. But you were scratched.
Well, let me. Yeah, and poor Seth, the guy who scheduled us, because he had to, schedule venues and then hotel rooms, and some, with COVID, it made it that much more difficult because people were scaling back, or maybe the restaurants would be closed, whatever. In fact, we were shooting a video, and we get notice, oh, the city is going to shut down, and all the restaurants have to close at 2:00. And it's like, okay, I guess we better go grab lunch. So on top of all of that, now he has to schedule me visiting emergency rooms in 4 different states, because it's a virtually 100% dead. Now maybe the bat didn't have rabies, you never know. But if it did, 100% chance I would have been dead without getting the vaccine and without getting there on the right days. So that kind of added a level of stress. Like, even though I knew, okay, I need to be there next Thursday, every day I looked at my schedule. Okay, not today. You don't have to go to an ER today without dying. So,
you mentioned that you had 3 campaign issues at the time, and 3 is kind of a magic number in politics. I understand that. So I'm wondering first how you came to those issues then, and then now, what are 3 core issues that you think would be useful for a libertarian campaign?
So healthcare has always been of interest to me ever since the beginning, ever since I heard about the Libertarian Party. It is literally life or death. And it is so misunderstood. And we could cut the prices down in no time. For instance, a lot of people say, well, but of course healthcare costs go up because technology goes up. Look at, you got to pay for CAT scans and all that. Well, look at computers. Computers went up. Computers were advancing at a faster rate than healthcare, and yet those costs were going down. And so just the fact that it was life or death, and because this is one of the issues that if you explain it to somebody, they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So healthcare, that's just been an important one. The environment, the same thing too, is because so many, like people looked at the Gulf oil spill, and gosh, how long, I don't even remember when that was. At least 10 years ago, maybe 15, I don't know.
A while ago, yeah.
But everybody was like, see, if the government had stopped it. Well, no, it's the government that caused it, because the government put a cap on their liability. If it were a free market and they had to get insurance, and they had to hire an insurance company to write a policy, then they would have said, no, this is too risky. So they couldn't do it unless they wanted to literally lose their company if there was, what happened. Or the insurance company would say something like, well, it's a little risky. Tell you what, we'll go ahead and insure you, but we're coming out there every month to look at the rig to make sure everything looks safe. In other words, there would have been free market caps, free market interventions there to keep it from happening what it did.
Mhm.
Now, so what happened? They had their oil spill, the government had given them a cap, and we, the taxpayers, pay for it. And so government is making it worse, not better. And then bringing the troops home. I mean, gosh, my heart goes out to 18-year-olds losing their lives, PTSD, suicide among veterans. And it's really, it is so heartbreaking when I see ads, for instance, people raising money on TV for veterans to help house them and to help with their medical care. And I mean, my thinking is the government needs to pay for all. If there's one thing the government should pay for, it is for people in the military. But
Right.
we wouldn't have so many people in the military. We wouldn't have the suicide rates. We wouldn't have the PTSD if we just fought our own wars.
Right.
There are always idiots in the chat. Don't worry about them.
There's only one, I think. There's only one.
Oh, there's
and
currently a
that's-
second one.
That's your girlfriend, Truth. So, so what about, so for today, would you still focus on those same issues? Would you still focus on healthcare, the environment, bring the truth, or, ending wars?
That's a really good question. I think those are still my top three. I mean, again, healthcare is life or death, and it's just getting worse. It's just getting worse.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that would still be in there.
Yeah, and the environment. And another reason why I liked the issue of the environment is because that's an issue that young people are interested in. And so, and to come along and say, hey, capitalism can solve our environmental problems, that's almost like does not compute. So I would think that would pique somebody's interest as to like, well, wait a minute, how can that be?
Right. Yeah, I mean, and then, it's one of those things where the government keeps making the same mistakes. They just find new ways to make the same mistakes. So yeah, those issues really seem evergreen. There were a couple questions that people had about, and I need to scroll up instead of down. That's the problem. So yeah, Adam Cahoon wants to know how running for president affected your work as a professor during and after the campaign. So you were in academia.
I still am.
You still are. Okay.
It's been almost 20 years now.
Oh, wow. My condolences. I am also a PhD student. So yes. How
in what area?
Political science. So it's just all kinds of fun. Yeah. Your psychology, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. So how did that influence the campaigning, or how did the campaigning influence, being at a university, being in academia?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't know that I was going to get the nomination. And so, I mean, I was hoping to. I worked really hard for it, but it wasn't a guarantee. So I was already signed up to teach an online class over the summer, which most of our classes are online in summer school. So yeah, I still taught one of my classes, and I remember I'd have my computer facing out the window wherever I was, and I'd be like, hey, see the beautiful mountain back there? I'm in Alaska today, wherever I was. And so that was kind of fun. And then in the fall, they had hybrid classes in which they wanted instructors to teach in person, but then also have like a Zoom meeting there. And I know the campaign did complain that they had to send me from North or South Dakota back to South Carolina so I could teach a class. But that didn't last long because the hybrid classes really didn't work, the technology wise. And so it went back to all in-person classes. And my boss and the scheduler were just so supportive that they allowed me to teach only one class, and what I could do, and well, long story, but basically I had two huge classes, the same class, which meant I could record one recording, and it was for like all the classes, all the students. So It was like a fraction of the time it normally would have been.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that is. I did not like hybrid schedules at all. I did not like online learning, but I assume it did make it a lot easier for it to have the campaign if that was, less of an issue getting in and out of classrooms. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, at Georgia Tech, we started doing online learning in 2010. So like it was.
It's a different department, though. I feel like it's different. It was definitely not as great in the humanities.
I mean, like it's aerospace, right? So it's there's lots and lots and lots of math on a board and explanations.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was teaching summer school online in 2010, but not regular classes. Lately, though, I've been teaching a class online now for quite a while, and ironically,
That's a good one.
So I was heavily criticized for somebody had asked me a question about prostitution, which and they didn't like the answer, and I'm like, okay, you realize when I ran for VP in 1996, the opening of my stump speech was about 1-900 phone sex. So that was my opening. But not only that, I now teach a human sexual behavior class. I've been teaching it online. And that was really interesting. I mentioned how I went around the country going to different states with the report. That was one of those semesters. Well, part of that heavy travel time was the first time I was teaching this class. And so all of my plane trips was reading the textbook, kind of being a step ahead of the students. So
Jake Porter asked a great question, which is, so I assume, or maybe you don't, maybe you're blissfully unaware of the current issues that are afflicting the Libertarian Party. But we have had a few installments of As the LNC Turns, where everything just basically becomes a soap opera. There is infighting between people who call themselves left libertarians, people who people call themselves right libertarians, and they call everyone else left libertarians. I don't know what those terms even mean to people because they always mean something different. There are message inconsistencies. Are the issues that are currently troubling the LP similar to the ones that you observed in the 1980s?
Well, let's see, back to the 1980s. Well, heck, there were problems in the 1990s with factions, but and yeah, there was some brouhaha. I don't know if it was
late 80s would have been the Ron Paul blow up and the Rothbard blow up.
Well, but there was also the David Bergland and that blow up. But so here's the thing. And my PhD is in industrial organizational psychology. So one of the things that I learned how to do is you do a job analysis and then you select employees based on the skills that are needed. The skills that are needed to be a candidate are completely different than the skills needed to do administrative work. So in 1990, 2 or 3, somewhere around there, my best friend and I decided to organize a local Libertarian Party. And this is, before the internet. So we're, taping signs all over. Hey, Libertarian Party meeting. We're meeting Sunday at 6 o'clock and we're trying to get something going. So it turns out that Sunday at 6 o'clock was Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, gosh.
And here we are advertising, hey, we're going to organize a new party. So that organizing is not my forte. So I don't do that. I think I do a much better job talking to, and there are different people that you can talk to out there. You can talk to libertarians that are already out there and rah, get them all, cheered up and going. That's still not my forte. I think my forte is speaking to people who don't know anything about libertarianism and coming up with examples and explaining it to them. I am a teacher after all.
Yeah.
And I do get good ratings from my students for being a teacher. And and by the way, I fell into academia. I'm like the least academia type person there is. In fact, my dissertation chair kept yelling at me like the entire 4 years, telling me I sounded like a layperson.
Oh, wow.
Basically, I used, 2-syllable words and not the
Gotcha.
long fancy words.
Gotcha.
And I've had a lot of students tell me, yeah, like you speak in English, I can understand what you say. So
You should teach Amanda.
I don't understand what I say. Every single one of my questions has been completely intelligible up to this point. Thank you very much. Anyway.
Yeah. So the thing is, so I felt, and if you don't mind my kind of going off the path a little bit, here's how I got into academia. So I had owned my own company before I got my PhD. I didn't get my PhD till I was 45 years old. And then I started building a consulting practice, but I was still running my old company. And then I would have a client here, a client there, make a few calls. And then I got an email from my former dissertation chair, who was just interim department chair at the time. And the subject line said, think about this before you say no. I'm like, okay. And he said, I'm just filling in department chair for 1 year. I need a lecturer. Would you mind coming in and teaching intro? And you can teach 1, 2, or 3 classes. It doesn't matter, whatever you want. So I'm like, okay, for you, like seriously, like, but I was doing it as a huge favor for him because he put up with me. I mean, about 4 weeks into it, I was like, this is the best job ever. And I've been teaching ever since then.
Wow.
But I think
Very cool.
but I think part of it is because I really did have horrible ADHD, which wasn't, I mean, when I was in school, it wasn't even invented yet.
Yeah.
And I wasn't diagnosed until my mid-30s.
That's most women, who are not diagnosed till mid-30s because they think it's all behavioral. So, yeah.
Right. And the diagnostician told me I was the worst case she had ever seen. but I think that's why I'm a good teacher, is because I was so lost in school. Like I'd go to school, not understand anything, and then have to go home and figure it out for myself. And then also one of my daughters, they used to call it a learning disability. I know you're not supposed to call it that anymore, learning difference. But, when I would try to teach her math, she loves cats. And so I'd draw little kittens, and okay, so we've got 3 kittens here. And then, and so I think that's why I'm kind of a good teacher, is because I'm so dense at understanding stuff. And so, yeah. Cool. I'll stop embarrassing myself right there.
No, it's a good story.
It's a great story.
Yeah, people come to career choices in very interesting ways. So
it's I worked toward a PhD and was getting to the point where I was considering when to schedule defending, and dealt with the government as an airspace engineer. There's kind of no way around that. And I was like, oh, this is terrible. I never want to do this again. So I took my bachelor's, and so it looks like it took me 9 years to get a bachelor's.
Oh, wow.
Wait, you didn't even get like an MA? You just
No.
Oh, wow. Usually they'll at least give you.
We've never talked about this one? Oh, no. Man. Yeah.
No.
I was actually working on PhD work and they had gone through a curriculum change in 2012 or maybe 2013. And they changed some of the classes where the class I needed to graduate wasn't there, and they were working on the replacement class for it. And they were like, oh, you have to take both of these classes. And I was like, I am not taking 2 classes for the 2 hours that I needed. And they're like, all right, well, we're working on a combined class. And I just kind of forgot about it because I was, going to, I'm going to lab and working 20 hours a week, and plus doing the PhD work. And my PhD advisor comes over at one point and puts a hand on my shoulder and is like, you have to finish the bachelor's before you can get the PhD. And it was like, no. So I was like 24, 25,
wow.
Sitting in with 17-year-olds because the class had gone from being a senior class to a freshman or sophomore class.
Nice.
And so it was great. And
So, Jo, I'm curious.
yeah.
Okay, well, do you mind if I have almost a similar story. So I was accepted into the PhD program, but the first 2 years are towards your master's, right? So all I had to do was fill out a 2-page form to get my master's diploma. And I was like, I'm really bad at forms. I hate paperwork, and I never filled it out. So it's like I could literally have another degree on my wall.
That's so funny. Yeah.
But I didn't want to fill out the 2-page form. You know, part of the whole ADHD stuff. So, but at the time I thought I was going to be a consultant, and it's like, well, I figured, you know, PhD trumps a master's degree, so who cares if I have a PhD? But somehow I ended up in academia, so it would have been nice to have that extra diploma on the wall.
Possibly, yeah. You were talking about how in organizational psychology, you look at different traits that are required for various positions, and so you mentioned that a candidate has to.
Well, and I hate to be picky.
No, it's your
I
field.
get picky when it involves science.
Sure, yeah.
But knowledge, skills, and abilities. Because
Okay.
when you say traits, that sounds like personality, and personality is a horrible predictor of
Got it.
in the workplace.
No, I appreciate that because, like, again, if people get picky about their own fields, so I appreciate the correction. Thank you. You were talking about, you know, having different knowledge, skills, and abilities. Is that correct? Knowledge, skills, and abilities. Was that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Between being a candidate and an organizer, what is necessary to be a good candidate then, in your research and in your studies?
Well, I haven't specifically researched candidates as part of my studies because we're not in politics, you know, it's more for businesses. But in my own experience out there, I would suggest it's being able to explain libertarianism in a simple way that's easy to understand. And the most important thing is what's in it for me, for the voter. And that was the problem that libertarianism had for the first 20 or 30 years is it's my body, it's my money, you got to let me do drugs, and I shouldn't have to pay taxes. Nothing in it for the people. So for instance, one, and I get accused of being a little on the right, and especially like healthcare is kind of on the right. Environmentalism isn't, although I approach it from the right. I still, you know, I love economics. I met Milton Friedman. I got to ride with Milton Friedman on a private jet from Oakland to Dallas. That was really cool. And that was in 1980, so right when he was coming out with Free to Choose. But what's funny is the first thing that grabbed me towards libertarianism was a left issue, and that was drugs. And I came from a very small town. In fact, when I used to go to I didn't always walk to junior high. Sometimes I'd get a ride. But when I would walk, I would literally cut through a cornfield because it was quicker. Wow. Like that's like small town with a couple thousand people. So, you know, only like 300-400 students in a class at my high school. Well, when I was a freshman, I was in the band. And so I was at the graduation ceremonies, and the valedictorian, who was like, her dad was like superintendent of the schools, you know, some high muckety muck. Well, she gets up there and she says, you know, like, it isn't fair that people holding their martinis tell other people they can't smoke pot. And I was like, yeah, you know, like, yeah. And, you know, I famously somehow made it through high school and college, never having smoked pot. So that, you know, like, I didn't want it for me, but it was just like justice and fairness. And it's like, yeah, that is so unfair. So
absolutely.
So it was really kind of a left issue that first grabbed me to libertarianism. That's before I had heard of the party. And well, what was so funny is because I live in a small town, word traveled like wildfire. Like my parents were talking, my parents, who of course did not go to the graduation because why would they? I was a freshman. They were talking about it over breakfast the next day. Like it spread
Wow.
the town like wildfire.
Wow.
And everybody was like, oh, this is horrible. This is horrible. And I'm like, no, it makes perfect sense. So when I talk to people, and especially back then, now people are finally saying, well, yeah, I guess it's okay for people to smoke marijuana. But back in the 1980s, oh my gosh, you didn't say that.
Mhm.
And so when I talked with people, I didn't say it was because I wanted to. I didn't say it was because of my body. I didn't even tell them it was because of their bodies. In fact, I kind of approached it from the right as well. But I would ask them, when's the last time you saw a liquor store owner going up and down the halls of a high school trying to sell bourbon? Or when's the last time you heard of an alcoholic breaking into houses to pay for his vodka habit?
Mhm.
Or when's the last time? So I tried to approach it as, hey, if your kids are in school, if you want them safe, then by having this legal, they're not going to be pushing it in the schools. The reason liquor store owners aren't pushing alcohol in the schools is because it's not worth it. There's not as much profit because it's legal, and it's not worth the risk. So again, I wasn't pushing it from something that I wanted. I was looking at, okay, you're the customer. What is it you want?
Mhm.
And also I'd like to mention my first job out of, I do have a different master's degree. Well, actually I have 2 other master's degrees, although I should have 3. But after I got my BS in psychology, I got an MBA, and then I worked for IBM. And I was a sales rep for, I hate to say this, is before the personal computer was around. These were like the big computers that would take up a room.
Okay, yeah.
And have all the terminals. That's what I sold. And so it's just like second nature to be a salesperson and to find out what they want.
Mhm.
And
Right.
to approach it from what they want, and not because I know the name of some fancy theory, or because this is what I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a couple of questions from Chase Oliver that he sent personally.
Okay.
So he's throwing a little bit of shade, not toward you, but toward the party here. But he wanted to know what you and Spike would have done if the party chair at the time had effectively endorsed Donald Trump over the LP ticket.
Well, I don't speak for Spike. I have no idea what he would have done.
Sure.
But so tell me the question again, how for me to answer.
What would you have done if the party chair at the time had endorsed Donald Trump over your ticket? Since that's effectively what happened this past year.
I guess I would have campaigned against my own party. I mean, what good are we? I met Ron Paul many years ago, and he told me about a meeting that he was in with Republicans, and they wanted to raise taxes or spending. I can't remember which. Maybe, yeah, wanted to raise spending. And they basically told Ron, well, if we don't raise spending, then we're going to get voted out of office, and then what good would we be? And of course, Ron's like, are you listening to yourself? Like, what good are we if we raise spending? If we're the ones who do it. Like, somehow when Republicans spend money, they don't think their money is as green as the money that the Democrats like, it's fine for them to do it because, they've got reasons. But the other guys, of course, they don't. So I guess I would have just been against my party because you've got to get another view out there. I mean, that's part of our purpose.
Yeah. Did Chase have another, or was that the last one? Chase?
The other one was, does Joe think the people who tried to call her Antifa for saying Black Lives Matter are the same folks that have called him a groomer for saying government should stay out of health decisions and parents. But truth is in the chat, so I feel like that one's been answered.
And the answer is yes. Yes.
Well, and I mean, it's like I was so against Antifa. I mean, so when you join the Libertarian Party, you sign a card that says that you are against force or fraud. And the party first started doing this because they wanted to make sure that the government didn't look at Libertarian Party members as subversive, as somebody who's trying to take over the government. And, you know, like I said, the George Floyd riot drives me nuts when I see people on the left refer, oh, they weren't riots, it was a George Floyd protests. It's like, no, that's destruction of property, that's violence. And that is something that the Libertarian Party is against. And and I was kind of mentioning something else, but I forgot something that happened recently, but no.
We've talked quite a bit about the past, and we've talked a little bit about the present and teaching and everything else. What do you see as the path forward for you, firstly? And then I want to follow that up with what you see forward for the Libertarian Party and everything else in general.
The path forward for me for what?
As a libertarian in academia, anything you want to talk about. Where do you see the future taking you right now? What path are you on?
Well, I'm finishing up a book, which I hope to have published soon. I do plan on remaining active. I have been coming to Libertarian Party conventions. And that's one thing that I loved about Ed Clark, is he continued to come to conventions. He continued to support the Libertarian Party. And I gotta say, and I'm sorry, I still know him as Bumper Hornberger. I respect Bumper Hornberger for continuing to come to the conventions, because there have been so many candidates in the past that when they lose, they're gone, you know? And so, or they win and they're gone. Like, I don't know, maybe Gary Johnson has come to some, I mean, I haven't seen him at the last couple anyway. So I do plan on remaining active.
Excellent.
Oh, and can I mention one thing?
Of course.
You know, since I brought up Gary Johnson, a lot of people basically compared me to the second Gary Johnson campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you didn't get as many votes, or you didn't raise as much money, or whatever. I got a lot more votes my first time running than he did his first time running.
Nice.
Yep. Your campaign was the second highest ever.
Right.
And Gary had a ton of money behind him.
And the highest ever for a first-time candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was a fantastic campaign. That was when I was still trying to pretend that I could live outside the party and just donate. So I had donated and everything else. And after the Reno reset in 2022, I was like, okay, screw it. There's people who don't want to take this seriously. I've got to get involved. And so I ended up being on Chase's campaign and everything else.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know, that's not, well, so when the party was first formed, there was a question of, should we even run candidates? Because a lot of people didn't understand freedom and how freedom, you know, they didn't understand how government made things work. You take anything and the government's going to make it worse. And so it's like, should we just be here for educational? Should we run candidates just as an educational thing? And I can see that being a legitimate question back in 1972, 76, 80.
Yep.
That's fine. But now, well, Reason was around before the LP, but, you know, we've got Reason, we've got Cato, we've got, you know, so many different organizations out there that, yes, we are a political party. We need to run candidates, and we need to do practical things. And just stop being theoreticians, stop explaining things with long scientific words, talk to people in just plain English and show them again what's in it for them, as opposed to, let me tell you about this economic, no, none of that. And by the way, back to your other question about what makes a good candidate, you need to approach it as a salesperson, because you are selling this. You're not a think tank. You're not going around impressing people with names of theories and long words.
There's something's going on with your microphone. It's a little hard to parse.
Oh, no.
We can hear you. Like we can hear what you're saying, but it's the volume is kind of cutting in and out. And so we want to head this off quickly before you become inaudible.
Okay. Well, did you catch all of
Back
that?
to
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So again, we need to, and I guess that goes back to Trump. Again, we're a political party. We're not a think tank. We're not an educational group. We need to meet voters.
Kyle teases me about this. I don't try to be a think tank. I'm too radical to be a think tank. But
she says, having worked for Cato.
I do. Am I Cato? Do I work for Cato now?
Yes.
Cato does.
You are
great
Cato.
Work. Cato does great work. I think there were some people at Cato who would take strong issue with you saying that I am Cato.
Well, yeah,
all of Cato.
Candidates go out there and try to impress people with their knowledge.
Right. Yeah. And everyone has different skills, right? So I think with the members of the party, it's one of those things where I think members' voices should also be amplified, because they have so much to bring in terms of how they sell libertarianism to the people who are close to them and the people in their community. So maybe not everyone is the best candidate. Maybe not everyone is the best organizer. There are various things that at the member level, individual members have individual skills that are really valuable for selling libertarianism. I guess, so Kyle asked a second, like a follow-up question, which was, where do you see the Libertarian Party as needing to go within the past, or over the next several years, basically? Where do you see it as needing to go?
Gosh, I hate to say for liberty, and notice that's one thing that I never talked
about. If there's ever an audience to say it with, it's this one.
Yeah. I'm going to put it in practical terms. Mm-hmm. We need to explain why government doesn't work, to quote Harry Brown, and how getting government out of people's lives will make their lives much better, and how they know better what they need. They can spend their money better. They can raise their kids better. They can make decisions better than the government. That's what we need to get across.
Heck yeah. Ken Molman's got a good question.
I have this question as well.
Oh, I love Ken.
Yes.
Yeah, Ken is my bourbon buddy.
He wants to know what bourbons you're enjoying these days. It's for anyone that doesn't know, Jo is a well-known bourbon fan.
I've actually got, I don't know how this ended up on my desk right next to my computer, but I've got this is from the campaign. OCD number 5.
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember where I got it. But no, so I for the campaign we got, oh come on, I can't think of the name now. Okay.
Put you on the spot, sorry.
Can you I know you know the name. It was Backbone Bourbon out of Indiana.
Oh, wow.
And since the campaign, they came out with a black label. But I still almost kind of like the original one better. But there was a place, I love the pair of crutches thing that Harry Brown used to talk about. But one of the places we went to in North Carolina, one of the campaign stops was a bourbon distillery. And I really liked it. I'm going to have to get some more of that.
I remember that was one of the things that endeared me to your campaign, was the fact that you were a bourbon drinker. So yeah, it was good. It was when I saw you drinking, I was like, what is that? Yes.
Before bourbon was popular, I actually, like when I was in my 20s, back in the, I was a bartender. So I went to a Baptist college. And my senior year, I was a bartender,
Oh,
which was rather interesting. But yeah, so whiskey sours, like that was my beginner drink that I started drinking when I was a bartender.
nice. We've got another from Chase. Does Dr. Jorgensen support Students for Liberty? And would she encourage young people to join the LP and Students for Liberty?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, the problem is they're so indoctrinated. In fact, just today, I could not believe it when I heard this. Well, first of all, I'm glad Trump, and I know there are so many libertarians who are so anti-Trump. I've been very pleased with many of the things he's been doing. And I just heard today that he wants to take away the National Education Association's charter, which I thought, I've been saying, get rid of the Department of Education since 1992 when I ran for Congress. So, that's old hat. It never occurred to me to take away the charter of the NEA. And I heard today that at a recent NEA meeting, when they were talking about politics, one of the teachers raised their hands and said, because reading, math, the scores are all in the dumps, right? And she said, shouldn't we talk about how we can improve education? And the reply that she got was, we don't have time for that. We got to go after Trump. It's like, you're the NEA, you're the National Education Association. Like, you're supposed to be helping students. And so,
Right.
that'd be great to take away their charter because, they're not helping students. They're just a political arm of the Democratic Party. And, so many students are just indoctrinated. I wish that students had read the same books I was required to read when I was in school, like Animal Farm. I read that in 5th grade, and it was just like so.
Oh man.
Like, and it's really funny watching Mamdani, who's talking about, the government run grocery stores and all the the little houses, and nobody should have any money. And I thought, aha, he's going to be one of the pigs at the table, though, living in his multi-million-dollar mansion.
Yeah.
So, it's just so clear, but they're indoctrinated the other way.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, yes, we need to, we need to get them earlier. We really do need to get them earlier.
Students for Liberty does great work in that respect. There are occasionally college libertarians. I don't think that there's really a national chapter that is specifically that, right? Like there's YAL, and SFL does great work. But yeah, how would you say that we get students when they're younger? Because I've said this a lot. I teach, and a lot of the students that I have, their only option for a non-duopoly party, right, is DSA. And a lot of times they don't even like DSA. Like they will talk to me about how they don't really like all DSA's policies, but they don't like the current government system. And so there's no really libertarian force that can come and provide an alternative way of looking at that. So how do libertarians do better with that?
Well, yeah, first of all, let's hope that, Students for Liberty, who does a great job, let's hope they can continue. So what I did when I was the VP candidate, and I hadn't had much speaking experience before I was the VP candidate. Now, what was really nice running for president, I teach classes that have like 300 students in them.
Yeah.
So it's just old hat to me now. But because I just wanted more practice, when I was going around the country, and actually I was doing this before the nomination too, I think, I would have the campaign contact a local high school, and I would give a speech at the local high school, which it was Marshall Fritz's speech. He's the one who started Advocates and Advocates for Self-Government. And so I spoke to just a lot of students in the high schools. and they just need to be exposed to it. By the way, Ken told me where I got this bottle. I got it from a fundraiser in Kentucky. Although, how do you know, Ken? Maybe I've already gone through that bottle and 20 more. But no, you're right, because I've not bought this on my own.
Ken's done great work with the party.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazing. He did such an amazing job on the campaign, and he did an amazing job running the 2022 convention.
Yeah.
I thought he was very, very amusing, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
So are you looking to be a delegate to national for next year?
Oh yes, I
Excellent.
already attended the county meeting where I put my name in, and then I'll go to our state convention. Will be this fall. Yeah, I hope you don't mind my commenting.
Not at
all.
Chase thinks Scotch is better than bourbon. I wish I thought that. When people meet me, they say, "Oh, I bet you love jazz," and it's like, I wish I loved jazz. Like, I wish I were that. I wish I were sophisticated enough to like jazz and drink Scotch, but I'm not. I drink bourbon and I listen to heavy metal.
Nice.
This is just going to be more fodder for Amanda's claims that I am, and I quote, a bougie bitch.
Oh, you are, but you do like jazz. Yeah, Kyle
I am very into jazz, and I prefer Scotch to bourbon.
I do prefer Scotch. I slightly prefer Scotch. Bourbon's great, but yeah, Kyle is absolutely the bougie one on the preference for jazz and many other things.
I wish that were me. I wish I were that, refined and
so
sophisticated. No, but I agree with whoever it was on The Office who said that jazz, too many notes. Why don't they just play the right ones?
So I fell in love with jazz. So I've been playing music since kindergarten, but in middle school started on French horn and went over to trumpet. And in high school, if you were like a good enough player, you would be invited to play in the jazz band. And so I got invited to play in jazz and started playing, and just absolutely fell in love with it. Mm-hmm. My wife hates it.
Jazz?
She's like, she's like, it's more boring than elevator music. She's like, it puts me to sleep every time.
Now, okay. Well, so here's the only time I like jazz is if you go to like a small club that's really dark, especially if you walk down the stairs to get there, and it's like a 3-piece, or maybe a 4-piece, and you got the guy who does the, what do they call it, walking or whatever, who does the, up and down the big bass. That I can handle, but only if I'm drinking. I can't handle jazz without a drink in my hand.
I like Gershwin, but Gershwin's really jazz. Gershwin is more just contemporary classical. It's not very jazzy, I wouldn't call it.
But I mean, like, at this point, like, I've played with Chick Corea and I've played with several others. And it's never a big venue because no one cares. But it feels different. And I don't know how to exactly describe it unless you've ever played jazz, but instead of everything being a straight rhythm, the swing, changing everything over to a triplet, so you're doing the 1, a 2, a 3, it's just a different feel. It feels really cool internally. It's a very fun thing. I don't blame people. I mean, it's fair. I was going to say, I don't blame anybody for not loving to listen to jazz. I don't blame anybody for not liking to play it. But it's so good.
I'm not catching all the questions, by the way. Somebody
it's fine.
Is not answering a question.
That's truth. That's Kyle's.
I'm trying to be a good guest and listen to you guys and not just sit here and read this stuff.
No, you're being wonderful.
Somebody asked me about my favorite metal band. I guess it'd have to be Metallica, which I've gone to see like 5 times. Although, and by the way, I did have my death metal days in the mid-90s. when let's see, I actually dated a death metal drummer,
Oh,
and
sweet.
he introduced me, like, not he introduced me to the music of Morbid Angel. So I used to listen to
Oh.
Morbid Angel a lot, but also, Pantera, Anthrax, Slayer, Sepultura. Who did that? Rust in Pieces. Testament, yeah.
It's
And then somebody broke into my house and stole all my CDs.
no.
And here's the worst part. So they stole all my, Slayer, Sepultura, I really liked Sepultura too. And Testament. But anyway, so they stole all of those CDs and my Green Day and Offspring, love them. But I had a Led Zeppelin box set, and they left it behind. And I thought, how insulting. Like, they think my musical tastes are so bad, it's not even worth stealing. I was so insulted. Like, you could have at least taken my Led Zeppelin box set and thrown it on the side of the road and at least made me feel better. By the way, I did see Led Zeppelin in concert with John Bonham, like the dad, not the son.
Nice. Very cool.
January 1975, when I was senior year in high school.
Very cool.
Oh, Pantera. Yes, Pantera. Oh, yeah. If anybody's a Beavis and Butthead fan, I think Pantera, get out there and mow the lawn. and Anthrax, too. I think Pantera was from Arlington, Texas, which I lived in Dallas and worked in the Fort Worth branch office, so I go through Arlington on my way.
So what you're saying is you're going to do a fundraiser next year at the National Convention of Listen to Cannibal Corpse with Jo Jorgensen.
Yes. although, but I still more. I don't know. I've mellowed in my old age. I love Guns N' Roses. I actually started listening to Metallica before Guns N' Roses, really, and I thought for sure that I would get tired of Guns N' Roses because they're more poppy, but yeah, no, I still, I'm still right with you, Axel.
I think at this point my favorite band is still probably the Scorpions. So
I had them in vinyl.
Me too, but there've been a lot of ideas as far as like the fundraising stuff goes about bringing like former candidates back and doing fun things with them. Like Chase has offered to do things to help libertarians learn how to dress and take pictures and everything else. But like he's also said that like he'll do a dunk tank if people want to do a dunk tank. If people want to donate $5 to throw him in a pool, that's fine. And I think that that's a really like a relatively easy way for like candidates to stay engaged and go forward. So like I'm legitimately going to pitch this point of a metal night with Jo at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, I should know this because I'm in LP Wisconsin. I think there is an event that I should know about.
Oh my gosh.
That's metal and you.
So okay, so I was not given the option of any heavy metal bands.
Okay.
But yes, because that was a good week, because they wanted me to come in June. Mm-hmm. And that was a bad time for me because of school. Mm-hmm. And so I said, actually, what would be a great time would be, mid-August. And it just happened to be when Loverboy's there.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah, it's Loverboy.
So
yeah,
it's going to be me and Loverboy, which it's like, yeah, I've heard of them. It's like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, man.
So, like, I don't know their songs offhand, but I
working
know
for the weekends is all I know right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too bad. I mean, for those days, it was pretty good. You know, we hadn't gotten the good stuff yet.
Yeah. No, it's fun. I like it when candidates stick around, and so it's good that you have and are still active and planning to go to Grand Rapids, which is the next big push. So
Yeah. And by the way, there was a lot of bourbon on like they did a lot of fundraisers with bourbon, or they would take me to distilleries and sometimes they would actually give me a bottle of bourbon.
Nice.
And yet one of my family members accused me of, oh, so that's why you're doing this. It's like
It can't
you
hurt.
get taken around the country and given free bourbon.
I would be up for that. Yeah.
And that sounds like the ultimate way to get candidates to run. Whenever we're like, oh, we need someone to fill this position, and it's like, all right, break out the Libertarian bourbon barrels. We gotta.
This would be good too.
Oh, somebody's having a hard time hearing me.
Every now and then you break up a little bit. I have been able to hear everything that you've said, but
I can also.
It's a little choppy.
I can go ahead and boost your volume.
Yeah, because Kyle, you're very loud, and Joe's not.
You know, which I do have a voice that carries. In fact, I do not use a microphone when I teach to my audience of 300 students, and I have had people complain to me on airplanes. I don't know why there is so much talk about Randy Newman, but I gotta admit, he had a couple of clever songs, and I think he wrote the theme song to Monk, which was pretty cool. So,
it's Joe Hanoush is a great libertarian out of Florida, and he's one of the folks who's allegedly posted some good things for LP National. So he made a joke talking about listening to Short People by Randy Newman, and then people got angry.
It's just gone on and on and on ever since. Yeah, gotten no respect.
Oh, my mic, I'm not wearing a mic. It's not my hair. It's in my computer.
So Adam had another, it wasn't really a question, but I think it opens the line for a good question. Said that he'd like to see candidates serve some role in the LNC team to provide meaningful perspective on the struggles of the campaign and how to make it easier and the party more useful. What were some things that you wished that the LNC or the LP had done to make that campaign more useful? What were some things that it did well?
Oh, my campaign?
Yes.
National was great. That's one thing that Steve did a great job on and Steve and I agreed, and I didn't mean to poo-poo him earlier. We only had a couple things we didn't agree on. I mean, 95% of the stuff we agreed on. And it was Steve's idea because he had been national chair, back in the 90s. Yeah. And so it was his idea to be the most transparent campaign. And we would actually have meetings with, the campaign staff and national. I think they met every week. Mm-hmm. And so I had a problem with my, so, and Steve doesn't mind when I tell this story. Like, okay, remember I said how you need to be a salesperson and not some theoretical person. Mm-hmm. So we had hired a team who came up with graphics design, a logo, and it involved red triangles. And I mean, I really liked what they came up with. Well, then I was talking with Tara at headquarters, and she said, well, we're not using your colors because of the red triangles. And I'm like, why not? And she said, well, because of what's going on with Trump. Well, being on the campaign trail, you're working like 20 hours a day. I didn't always keep up with the news like I usually do. Usually I'm addicted to it. And so there was the whole brouhaha about the Nazis, which, they had red triangles as one of their symbols. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. We got to change that. We got to get a new logo. And so I called Steve and I'm like, Steve, I didn't know this thing going on with Trump and the red triangles and the Nazis. We got to get a new logo. And Steve was like, oh no, we're fine. The Nazi triangles were equilateral, whereas ours are isosceles. I'm like, Steve.
That's a very libertarian answer. That's an extreme.
The average person just sees a triangle. They don't know isosceles from equilateral. And that's what I mean. I think I'm enough of a layperson that I'm not technical like that. So I'm like, well, yes, who cares what kind of a triangle? And so Tara then put me in touch with the graphics designer, Matt, who had done a great job for them. And he quickly came up with a logo, and I loved the logo. In fact, I loved it even more than the original one. And I don't know what I would have done without our connections to the LNC. We probably would have kept going around with the red logos, and then we would have been called, Nazis or something. So
yeah.
So I don't know if you know Andrea. She's a good, strong libertarian out of Georgia. She helped with the Chase campaign. You mentioned a book, and she wants to know when it comes out.
And what's it about?
I wish I knew. It was supposed to have come out by now. I will be thrilled if it comes out within. I'm not going to make any promises. I'm hoping within a couple months. I hope sooner than that, but I'm not making any predictions. It's like in final edits. So,
are you allowed to say what it's about?
Well, yeah, it's partly. So I was asked to write. Yeah, and Andrea, by the way, did our social media for People for Liberty. So it was really funny. Dan Fishman, who was, LNC, who worked at headquarters during the campaign, he was also helping with, he was direct. I don't remember his exact title, but he was with People for Liberty, and he's the one who suggested I write a book. And I was kind of like, I don't want to write a book, but okay, because they wanted to use it as a, I can't think of the word, but freebie, a promotional thing. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll write it. But it's partly about me, but partly about libertarianism, and partly about psychology.
Nice.
I would say it's more about psychology than actually politics. And it does involve, the psychology of why people would choose to do one thing versus another, or how psychology would affect people's decisions, and how you have to present information in a way that people, kind of persuasion, how you have to present things
nice
to win people over.
That's really cool. I wish we had more. I mean, I'm biased. I wish we had more writers in the party. I wish we had more books from former candidates. So I'm
gonna plug it. Amanda has not plugged it. LP Alliance does have a journal. It is The Torch at thetorch.media. And so if you ever have the hankering to publish, you should definitely consider publishing with us. You will not get any royalties from us because we're poor.
you can put you can put a crowdfunding link on there, and sometimes people do. So
yes.
We are trying to have an opportunity for authors to earn a little bit of money through the work that they do. But
for sure,
yeah. And by the way, somebody just said Joe knows Andrea. Yes. I know Andrea very well, and we work very closely together with People for Liberty. But I just have not been keeping anybody up with the book, just because the date keeps changing. Yes, Andrea definitely is the best.
Yeah, she's awesome. So let's see. I had another question. Now I've lost it in my head.
Was it party related?
Well, let me tell you about my original experience then with libertarianism, which was kind of funny. So 1979, I just moved to Dallas. And Dallas, by the way, is like a whole nother world. And I hear somebody on the radio, Honey Lanham, talking about the Libertarian Party. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's actually somebody out there who agrees with me. By this time, of course, I read Animal Farm in grade school, and I had read Atlas Shrugged in college. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's actually a political party. This is awesome. And so my then husband, I got married way too young, which is why we're no longer married. We got married our sophomore year in college.
Oh, wow.
I know it's kind of crazy. So so we said, oh, this is great. Let's go to the meeting. Well, this is Dallas. And it was at this huge mansion with like all these rich people. Now the meeting was outside, but beautifully manicured lawns and gorgeous. And we were like, gosh, I guess you have to be rich to be in the Libertarian Party or something. It wasn't until years later that I found out that it's like the opposite. Like we probably went to the only like rich libertarian meeting ever. And so I didn't become active at a local level then because I was actually really intimidated. And then when I came to South Carolina and joined the party, then I got a real taste of what the Libertarian Party is, and it's a lot of hardworking people who are just so dedicated and passionate, who would rather spend their extra discretionary money on promoting liberty on the party. So
we're crazy. We spend all of our time, and I don't have money, but if I did, all of our money on promoting liberty and libertarian causes. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It though I would probably have a bigger Scotch collection than I do now.
Fair.
If I had a lot more money.
Fair. Not bourbon though. Scotch.
I prefer Scotch.
Right, and you prefer jazz too. So
I'm not against bourbon. I'll drink bourbon and be happy.
Well,
but,
I'm an American, so of course I have a sweet taste like everybody else. Although, and probably everybody listening is too young to remember the Pepsi Challenge. In the 70s, they had the Pepsi Challenge, and we recreated it. Like when I was learning psychology, in my psychology lab, we recreated the Pepsi Challenge. And to my, I can't think of the right word, but to my credit, let's say to my credit, I chose Coke over Pepsi, so at least I didn't choose the really sweet one.
It as a Georgian, it's the correct answer.
Yes, that's right. Although, it should have been Dr. Pepper in Texas, because that's where I went to school, Texas.
Ken's brought up that he'll bring some dirt along for me the next time to add to the bourbon so that it can taste like Scotch.
Adding dirt? Oh, I thought you meant like I thought you meant like dirt
gossip.
On me.
Yeah. There's enough of that for the current LNC. I don't think we need to dig up dirt on other people. That's already being flung on the present LNC.
Ooh.
So yeah.
I don't even know if you can call it dirt anymore. It's
mud, dirt,
more like excrement.
Well, I think I've lived a more boring life than most libertarians. So unfortunately, fortunately for me as a candidate, I got nothing.
You don't secretly have lots of time in prison or something in the background. The ridiculous talks about you secretly having a dungeon. None of those are ever true.
No,
I've never heard the dungeon rumor.
You haven't heard it?
I think I'm the only person, I guess, in the chat.
Oh man.
I thought you were just making that up. There's really
okay, great.
Oh yes.
Neither of us know about the dungeon rumor. What is the dungeon?
There's a rumor that went around, and it got enough that it got memed a little bit, that Jo is an owner of a German-style porn dungeon.
Well, I'm glad at least that got rid of the whole not for sex work being legal. I mean, like I said, I got after the South Carolina Libertarian Convention in 2019, I had to live that one down. So unusual that it swung completely the other way, but
we did have a question early in the chat that was asking if there was any truth to the rumor that you were a Dami mommy, as it were. So
no, but I teach it in school. and I do teach it very libertarian wise. And I tell them at the beginning of the semester, okay, well, first of all, I tell them, some of you may be a little uncomfortable when we talk about the material, but here's the thing. If you are uncomfortable, then you're probably the person who should be in the class, okay? But if you're so uncomfortable, let me just warn you now, we're going to be talking about sex. I'm going to be showing you pictures of penis. I'm going to talk about people peeing on each other as a sex act. And I tell them, I don't care, just so they don't pee on me. So I teach it from a very libertarian angle, although that is considered, if sexual arousal and gratification are primarily from that, then it is considered a disorder in the DSM. But if it's just occasional, then it's not a disorder. So, but yeah.
The whole world of man,
gotta be a fun class,
guess
though.
So we've been considering a sex work stream because there are some prominent libertarians who are sex workers, and a couple of them have released books and those sorts of things in the last couple of years. And so maybe if we do that one, we'll have to get you on as the psychological element to the empirical data.
Yeah, I can talk about this. And yes, and now for something completely different. Yes, one of my favorite. My all-time, since we've gone completely off the rails, as somebody put it. Yeah, my all-time favorite movie is still Holy Grail. I mean, like nothing even compares to that. So, yeah.
It's a fun one.
I love that people can just take basically any still from that film
and tell you
throw
what's
it
happening.
up.
Yeah, tell you the line. Yeah.
Yes. Some call me Tim. By the way, did you know he made that up on the spot?
I'm not
I did not.
Because in the original script, they had some big, long, hairy name. And then when he went to deliver his line, he thought, oh, this would be a lot funnier. And so he just came up with Tim just on the spot. And they were all like cracking up because they were not expecting that. They were expecting some really long name that they had all come up with.
Oh, wow.
That is perfect. So, man, I would love to talk to you for hours, but it's, I have a meeting that I have to run to at 9:30. So it's probably.
Yeah, I mentioned I did use the word shrubbery in my book.
Wonderful.
When I was talking about. Can I tell you a story that's in my book?
Absolutely.
Yeah, please.
Of course.
Oh, yes. George Harrison, definitely the cutest Beatle and the most talented.
That's
get started on that.
That is my mother's opinion as well.
So, okay. So I went back to my high school 10th reunion, right? And they had a raffle and they're going down the prizes. And the next prize in line was a bottle of red wine. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I hope I get that. Because my husband and I at the time didn't have a lot of money. He was still in school. And they call my name. And I'm like, yay, I get the bottle of wine, right? So I go up there to get my bottle of wine. And they don't give it to me. They give me the jade plant that's next to it.
Oh no!
And I'm like, and they said, well, we know you don't drink. Well, yeah, because I was a goody two shoes in high school and I didn't drink underage. But it doesn't mean that as a 28-year-old young woman with a child that I don't drink. So yeah, so in my book, I said I went off the stage carrying my shrubbery. Like, oh my gosh.
That is perfect. But, legitimately, there's a lot of stuff that we would love to dive into with you. And like, you're always welcome to come hang out with us, right? Come give us opinions on other people too. Come talk about news with us.
Sure.
Yeah, we have weekly newscasts too, so you'd be welcome on that.
and bands. Oh gosh, I don't want to agree that the Beatles are overrated because I know that'll get a
Oh
lot of people
no,
really mad.
it's Amanda would agree with
I
you.
agree with you once again. Yeah, I do not like the Beatles. They just sound the
But
same.
yeah, well, okay, so I am old, but not that old. The Beatles were before my time, so I'm going to, blame it on that. So, Wings was the greatest British band of all. Led Zeppelin.
It's I'm telling you, we got to do a Joe on music fundraiser
Oh,
here.
so do you mind if I tie some things together here?
Have
Not
at
at all. Go
do
for
it.
Did you know that George Harrison funded Life of Brian?
I did
I
not know
did
that.
not.
Yes, and somebody somebody asked him why he did that, and he said, "Because that's a movie I wanted to see, but that's the most expensive movie ticket I ever bought," or something like that. And also, Graham Chapman had gone to medical school, and the only reason he was part of Monty Python is because he was waiting on a residency or something to open up. And so he actually was the doctor on set for when they were over in Egypt or wherever
Oh,
it was.
wow.
Somebody got sick. Yeah.
Wow. Did not know that.
That's really neat.
Yeah. So see how nicely I tied those all together?
It's great. Well, see, that's what lecturers do. Lecturers are very good at that. So yeah.
It's
Oh, he was in it also. George Harrison was in Life of Brian. I didn't know that.
Give me just a second here. Let me see
Now
what
we've
I can
just
see.
evolved into
Justin is correct about Rush, by the way.
What about Rush?
So Justin says that the two greatest Canadian musicians.
Oops,
I don't know about Avril. I can't talk Avril Lavigne, but
You
Rush
don't
is
think
definitely.
Mina Psycho Arigato? Kakakawaii?
I'm a fan of Rush. That is all that I will say. Huge fan.
The only prog rock band I ever got into was Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I understand that Rush is very talented. Oh, and Neil Peart. I mean, oh my gosh, libertarian, right? The thinker, the guy who would ride his motorcycle behind the touring bus reading Ayn Rand at the stops. So, you got to give him that. But I don't. Oh, Nickelback. They're Canadian.
There we go.
I didn't know they were Canadian until like
Polarizing,
6 years ago.
but yes.
Oh, Genesis. That's British, right? That would be yeah.
Queen
British.
as well. Yeah, Queen is fantastic.
But I do have to run on this one, so I'm sorry. So let's call this one a wrap. We can get you again if you have time.
Okay.
I know that you're a busy lady, but we would love to talk more.
Okay, great. I'm
Thank you
around.
so much. Yeah, fantastic.
All right. And with that, we've been LP Alliance.